Our clients often face the task of automating processes for tables with a many-to-many relationship, especially when it comes to adding new conditions, rows, and attributes. As it turns out, implementing this using Power Automate is not such an easy task. Imagine we are working on a project for a company called Global Transfer, which deals with logistics. This company organizes various events, such as international shipments. For each event, one or more vessels are added that participate in the event. However, the increasing number of events and vessels has significantly complicated the management of this process. The task is to automate the tracking of new vessels for each event. The company faced an issue when a new vessel was added to an event, making it difficult to track the process as updates had to be manually monitored each time. The project manager decided to turn to Power Automate to automate this process. The problem lies in the fact that Power Automate doesn't have direct access to the system's many-to-many relationship table, where the data about the connection between the event and the vessel is stored. This leads to the need to find alternative solutions to ensure efficient automation. Usually, at Global Transfer, when there is a need to automate processes, a flow is triggered through the standard when a row is added, modified, or deleted trigger. The corresponding table is selected and the process is initiated. However, in the case of a many-to-many relationship, a separate system table is created, to which Power Automate does not have access. This means that the standard Dataverse connector does not work for actions associated with this type of trigger. In the Global Transfer project, this posed a significant challenge for the automation team, as it complicated the integration process. However, after some research and numerous attempts with different approaches, a solution was found that we hope will be helpful to you as well. To create our flow, we will use the when a HTTP request is received trigger and a webhook, which we will create a little later. This webhook will activate our flow, automatically tracking changes in the company's processes. Working with the company's data, we can see that there is a table with events to which vessels are added. Sometimes, several vessels can be added to a single event at the same time, which is common for Global Transfer due to their complex logistics. Our task is to ensure that the automation is triggered every time a new vessel is added to an event in Global Transfer, allowing the company to safely monitor its shipments. So, we have an event form and a grid that shows the end-to-end relationship between the event and the vessel, which Global Transfer works with daily. This is where we will be adding our vessel during the testing of the flow, which will automate this process for the company. First, we will start by creating an automated cloud flow. Once the flow is created, a trigger will appear, which needs to be configured. After the flow is saved, a URL for the trigger will be automatically generated, which we will use later to simplify the company's workflow. The first thing to do when setting up this trigger is to prepare the parameters so that the webhook can trigger it. To do this, we use the following expression. Now, let's move to Power Apps to find the name of the relationship used in the company's event table. Since Global Transfer uses a complex system to manage its events and vessels, we have already found the necessary relationship in the events table, and now we're inserting its name into the trigger. To save time, we've prepared a ready-made flow in advance. This allows us to speed up the process and avoid any potential issues that could affect Global Transfer's operations. Now, we enter the formula in the trigger settings, copy the relationship name, and save these settings. After setting up the trigger, we proceed to identify the rows in the tables used in the many-to-many relationship that will be involved in tracking changes. This is important for Global Transfer, as we need to determine which event and which vessel were added to ensure that the automation runs flawlessly. For this, we use formulas that are already included in our presentation. The first formula allows us to retrieve the event ID. The second formula is used to extract the vessel ID. It is crucial not to confuse their order, as even though they are equivalent, they are listed in a specific sequence, with each formula corresponding to its respective row. In our case, Global Transfer frequently encounters challenges like this when new vessels are added to their events, so accuracy in the configuration is critical for their process. As you can see, the formulas differ slightly from each other. Let's move to the flow itself. where we can see that our vessel is already present in the expression. We double-check. In the company, the campaign always comes first in the name, followed by the vessel. Accordingly, a different parameter is used in the formula here, with the event coming first using the parameter 0. Once we have extracted the rows involved in the many-to-many relationship, we can proceed with the automation concerning either the event or the vessel we are working with. For example, in the case of global transfer, we would simply send an email with information about a new vessel added to the event, specifying its name in the vessel name field. However, while the flow is already created and appears quite simple, it's only halfway towards the complete automation needed for global transfer to efficiently handle the large data stream. As we mentioned earlier, besides creating the flow itself, we will also need to configure a webhook. For this, we use the plugin registration tool, which is crucial for ensuring that automation works in real time for the global transfer. Once the flow is created and saved, we receive an HTTP post URL, which will be needed to configure the webhook and further automate company processes. Let's move on to the plugin registration tool. Select the option Register New Webhook, and we will briefly show you how to correctly input this URL so that the webhook functions properly. In fact, each segment of the URL needs to be entered into separate fields in the webhook. For convenience, we've highlighted these parts of the URL in different colors to make it easier to navigate. You can choose any name for the webhook. It's entirely up to your preference. Next, we fill in the endpoint URL. This is the first part of the URL that we extracted from the trigger, and it should end with invoke before the first question mark. This endpoint URL will be used. For the authentication method, we choose HTTP query string. Now we proceed to enter the values that we also obtained from the trigger URL. In the webhook registration, click Add Property and copy the value of the API version. It is 2016-06-01. We wrote these down in advance to save time, as global transfer, being a logistics company, requires precision and speed in its operations. We continue configuring our webhook. The next property comes after the ampersand symbol. First, we add the value SP, which equals triggers, manual, run. These three elements, %2f triggers, %2f manual, %2f run, are codes for the /%2f, which has also become an integral part of every automation in global transfer. Next, in the third line, we specify SV, which in our case is equal to 1.0. Finally, the fourth value after the ampersand symbol is SIG, comma. This is what remains in our URL. After all the data is entered, we save our webhook. However, saving the webhook is not the end. The next step is to register a new step. We go to Register New Step. It's ready, so let's go over the settings. As with other processes at global transfer, we need to fill in a few important fields. First, select the message type. This should be Associate. Next, for primary and secondary entity, we select None, since, as mentioned earlier, there is no primary and secondary entity here. Also, don't forget to check that we selected the correct webhook for global transfer operations. Lastly, set the execution order to synchronous. Now we can click Register Step. After this, our process is almost ready for testing. We ensure that the webhook is active and proceed to the event where we add a new vessel. Once we have added the new vessel to the global transfer system, the automation should trigger. Let's check. As we can see, everything completed successfully, and an email has just arrived. Academy Test with the event name and the added vessel. We can verify that all the data matches. As you can see, once you know how to do it, it doesn't take that much time. For global transfer, this means a significant acceleration of processes. However, we spent over 10 hours on investigating and creating this flow. If you have any questions or want to learn more about setting up such automations, leave comments below the video. Also, check out our other videos to discover more interesting content. If you enjoyed this video, like it and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss new releases. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.